Ladies and gentlemen, do I have an interesting video for you guys. So as you guys know, with the recent reveal of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, there's a new bad guy in town known as Perseus. And this is a character who, to me, is one of the most interesting bad guys we have ever seen in a Call of Duty game, and the game isn't even out yet. So what I wanted to do today was dive more into this Perseus character, because what we actually have on this character is a whole bunch of information from the real world that is going to tie into Black Ops Cold War. So what we're going to be doing in this video is looking at the real world story of Perseus, and then later in the video, we're going to be discussing potential people who Perseus could actually be in Black Ops Cold War. I've heard theories including Adler, Hudson, and I have some of my own theories that I think make even more sense than those characters. But first, before we do all of that, we first have to dive into the truth, the real world story of Perseus.
Perseus. The CIA's analysts consider him to be the single largest threat to the free world.
Mr. Hudson, we're all aware of Perseus. We're also aware he's more myth than fact. I mean, personally, I think he's nothing more than the Russian boogeyman.
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures.
So this speech that you're watching here was made in 1984 by a man named Yuri Bezmenov, a Russian defector who is talking about the brainwashing of the American public. This speech is the same thing that they used in the reveal trailer for Black Ops Cold War. Now, oddly enough, I've watched through this entire speech, and it actually has nothing to do with Perseus. In fact, nothing really came out about Perseus until around the year 1990, when a bunch of classified documents got declassified and people were able to look at them for themselves. And at this time, we found out that during the time of World War II, a bunch of Soviet spies infiltrated America and placed themselves in one of the biggest places possible. And that place is somewhere known as Los Alamos. Now, if you don't know much about this, essentially it all revolves around one big thing called the Manhattan Project. And that is, of course, the idea of making nuclear weapons, which they were doing at Los Alamos Laboratory in New Mexico. Now, the Manhattan Project is actually fascinating, and I could go into a whole separate spiel about that, but why are we talking about something that took place in the 1940s in a video about the Cold War? Well, you see, during this time, Russia didn't really have the same nuclear program that the United States did, and instead of just building it from the ground up, what they did instead is send in spies to steal information from America. Now, this really wasn't known at the time, and some argue that it wasn't really found out until later during the Cold War. And this is where we get into the idea of Perseus. Now, Perseus is a figure of Greek mythology, son of Zeus, and essentially known as the Slayer of Monsters. This is where his code name comes from. Now, the interesting thing about this is even with the declassified information, at least the declassified information that's public, to this day, they still don't know who Perseus is. For all we know, he could still be alive. It'd be rare, but it is possible. Now, based in the real world, there are essentially two theories as to who Perseus could be. Two people who both infiltrated the Manhattan Project. The first physicist is by the name of Klaus Fuchs. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but his KGB codename was simply Charles. Now, the reason why I say it's probably not him who is Perseus is, first of all, he was convicted of espionage in the UK in the year 1950, so there is much known on this person. He never actually worked in Los Alamos, at least as I could find, but he was providing information to the KGB and Soviet Union through his associates in the United States, UK, and Canada. However, since he was convicted in 1950, it would be very rare for him to be doing any work during the Cold War. Now, there is a second theory as to who Perseus could be. You see, there was another Russian spy during the same time by the name of Mlad. Now, it's argued whether or not this is the same person or not as Perseus. However, the most likely suspect to be Mlad is someone by the name of Theodore Elvin Hall. Now, you remember the name Mlad? Mlad is Russian for youngster, and the reason why they believe that Hall is Mlad is because he graduated from Harvard at the age of 18 and went on to work at Los Alamos between the years 1944 to 1945, at which time he ended up being a Soviet Union spy. Now, from all of the research that I have done, he is the most likely candidate to be Perseus in real life. Yet, it has never been proven, even through interviews from Hall himself. Now, even though Hall is the most likely candidate to be Perseus, that has never actually been proven. In fact, if you go through the documents, it appears as though Perseus is very rarely mentioned. The time that he was most mentioned is in something called the Venona Project, which, by the way, was part of the Black Ops Cold War reveal. And what this was a United States counterintelligence program initiated during World War II by the United States, and throughout the documents mentioning the Venona Project, Perseus is mentioned several times. It's important to mention that this project ran from February 1st, 1943 to October 1st, 1980. Now that we're hearing more about Black Ops Cold War, we know that Black Ops Cold War takes place in 1981, right after the end of Venona Project, and Perseus would be free to do other work. So as I said, Hall is probably the most likely candidate to be Perseus. However, it was never proven, and since he stopped doing espionage work in the 1960s, it appears as though that wouldn't make any sense for the story of Black Ops Cold War. So the question this leads us is, who is Perseus within Cold War?
General Haig, allow me to introduce the man best suited to respond to that. CIA clandestine special officer Russell Adler. He's one of the few people who even come close to capturing Perseus.
Mr. Adler, why should we take this Perseus threat seriously?
You don't have to, sir.
Yeah, then a lot of innocent people are gonna die.
Why do you say that?
Sir.
Every time Perseus has come into play, it's shifted the balance of the Cold War. After 13 years of silence, if he's active, something big is gonna happen. Something that will affect the free world.
So as far as theories as to who Perseus is in Black Ops Cold War, I've heard two big theories. The most common one is Adler. Adler is one of the newest characters within Black Ops Cold War, and it would make sense for a new character that isn't in Black Ops 2 to be Perseus, because if you kill him at the end of the game, he wouldn't be in the next game. On top of this, recently in a piece of intel found in Warzone, there is a piece of intel that says Adler/Perseus. It could also be a comma, kind of hard to tell, kind of hinting towards the fact that they are the same person. Now, the reason why I don't think this is the case is it's too obvious. Why would they already be putting intel into a game saying Adler is Perseus already? The game isn't even out yet, and they wouldn't be trying to give us his identity. Do you remember what Bezmenov said?
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measure.
What it appears as though is that Treyarch or Activision are taking active measures to make us think that Adler is Perseus. Now, it's still possible. This is just my opinion on it. Now, the second biggest theory that I've heard is that Jason Hudson is Perseus. Now, I don't know how this theory started. I've seen a lot of people make videos about it, and it doesn't make any sense. None of the videos, none of the comments that I've seen about it make any sense whatsoever. So I think that this theory stems from about how high up he is in the CIA, and right off the start in Black Ops 1, he's in the CIA and all the way through. But if this game is about catching Perseus and figuring out who he is, Hudson would no longer be in the CIA in Black Ops 2. And I think that's really all we need to look into with this theory. However, I do have two different theories that I like a lot more.
The hell are you talking about? You know who we are?
So I know I just discounted Hudson because he was in Black Ops 2 and Alex Mason is also in Black Ops 2. But there is something that you have to remember about the story. In Black Ops 1, Alex Mason was essentially brainwashed by the Russians, putting a number sequence in his head. And after the events of Black Ops 1, there's many documents and intel from the CIA worried that Alex Mason is still brainwashed by them. So what if Alex Mason is more so of a sleeper agent and is acting unwillingly for the Soviet and the KGB? What if he is actually Perseus acting for them without even knowing? And going forward to Black Ops 2, at the beginning of the game, he's retired from the CIA. What if he was forced into retirement because of the Soviet brainwashing that's already been done inside his head? And the only reason why they brought him back was to rescue Frank Woods. Again, the game's not out, so there's no proof supporting this. I'm just throwing theories out there. But the next theory, in my opinion, is the best and by far the coolest. So as we discussed earlier in the video, in the real world, it was rumored that Perseus first infiltrated the American government during the end of World War II, simply to get intel on the Manhattan Project and nuclear bomb. Now, all of the characters that we've discussed today, aside from potentially Adler, make that almost impossible. They are all too young at the time of the end of World War II to be Perseus at that time. However, there is a character in the Black Ops universe that worked both with the Americans and the Russians that was there during World War II, and that is none other than Viktor Reznov.
I need your help.
So I have to start this by saying this is a theory, but in Black Ops 1, throughout the game, you see Reznov several times, but as you find out at the end of the game, Reznov has apparently been dead the entire time. But I have one big rule with Call of Duty games. If you don't see someone die, they're probably not dead. And what they told you is that Reznov died at the end of the Vorkuta mission, yet when you jump to the train, Reznov drives off into the distance. Now you have to ask yourself a whole bunch of questions here. First of all, Reznov was a part of the people who implanted the numbers and the visions into your head. At this time, he appeared to be working with the Russians. The only reason why you thought he was a good guy is because he helped you escape from Vorkuta prison. And since you never see him die, my theory puts forward the idea that he did not die at Vorkuta, that Viktor Reznov is indeed Perseus. He was one of the people involved with implanting the numbers sequence in your head. He is the one that escaped you out of Vorkuta prison. And as we discussed before with Alex Mason, he was then supposedly a sleeper agent for the Russians. So what if this was all Reznov's master plan? Implant this number sequence in Mason's head to make him a sleeper agent. Then help Mason, the CIA agent, escape from Vorkuta, therefore earning the trust of the American government and letting Reznov be a part of them. Then, at the end of the Vorkuta mission, faking his death and then becoming Perseus. By the way, this would also explain how in Black Ops 2 you end up seeing Reznov out in the desert. Maybe it wasn't a vision. Maybe that was Perseus. Now again, this is just a theory. It's a big theory with a lot of holes that would still have to be filled in, but I think it's a pretty cool one, and I would love to see this in the actual game. But at this point, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Who do you think at this point is Perseus? I know we're making a lot of stretches and assumptions at this point, but I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say, so let me know who you think he is down in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed the video, it's always appreciated if you do hit that like button, and if you like what you see here, want to stay up to date on everything Black Ops Cold War, make sure to hit that subscribe button, make sure to turn notifications on. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard.